One time he was cooking ramen noodles. I just came in and took the bowl and ate from his bowl, and this guy was just sitting there looking at me.
That's.
So check this out.
It's not saying it's not.
This guy used to be in Durus with Sheikh Hussein Sattar. Okay. From what I understand,
I'm still them.
We're live, by the way, so don't say anything.
All these people are surrounding him. Yeah. They're in. With students are there. So he goes, "Who do you like more, Batman or Superman?" Around students of knowledge, serious tasawwuf talk, tazkiyat an-nafs, all this stuff. What did he do after he heard you say that?
He just kind of ignored me. I asked Imam Sohaib Wab that too. And then he said...
he was making fun of you, I remember that.
Oh, yeah. Who did he say? First, he got a little upset because it was a serious student of knowledge discussion. And I think he said something like Spider-Man.
Yeah,
at the end of
it. But I remember he's like, I can't believe you, bro. Why would you ask him that? Oh, my God. Like, he felt the embarrassment for you, bro.
Look, those kind of questions are important to understand the person you're getting to deal with and, like, the personality that they have. Like if someone answered Batman for me, I vibe with them because I like Batman. And I like that kind of those qualities within someone.
Yeah.
Superman's like a pretty boy. He gets all the girls, he's just like...
I don't know. I can't give bayat to someone who likes Batman. I'm just saying.
What the...
Because Superman...
Words, man.
Here we go.
No. Superman kind of like embodies everything that you aspire to. Like... Okay, so I'm going to put an Islamic spin on this. You know how like people... if you don't worship Allah, you end up worshiping other things like your nafs or money or women.
Oh, I definitely want to see where this is going, bro. You better tread very carefully.
So just like that, people aspire to prophets, right? You want inspirational figure to look up to.
Yeah.
But when you don't have prophets, you invent figures.
Yeah.
And you try to aspire to them. So
yes,
people, they end up looking up to music stars, rock stars, movie stars, comic book heroes, sports figures, things like that. So if you don't have a real inspirational figure in your life, you end up inventing things. So that's where like a lot of these comic book figures.
Superman has some shirky qualities of like he can't ever die by any means. I think it's a bit shirky, but we'll leave the discussion off. Let's start off with the intro.
I mean, Batman does Tawassul on a bat. That's pretty shirky.
Shut up. I'm so sorry.
I think everyone here regrets inviting me. No,
this is going to be fun.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Mad Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-host, Sheikh Amir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Imad. Oh, that's not Imad. This is Imad. And this is Shaz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Shaz is new to our team. Welcome to the team, Shaz.
Thank you very much.
Shaz is our media manager and fill-in host every so often. So this is his debut. Welcome. He has studied with Sheikh Hammer in the past, right, Sheikh?
Yeah, we lived together. We had a lot of fun together.
Give a brief introduction.
I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. I found out through the grapevine when I was living in Egypt that we had a visitor, and he's coming from Chicago, so be nice to him. So me and another brother from California, we went to pick him up from the airport, and then my friend's like, hey, that's him right there, but let's act like we don't know who he is. And then we'll go talk to him. So we saw him looking around and stuff like that. And we went and we started talking to him. I think we're talking to you in Arabic, right? And then after that, we're like, all right, it's just us for a joke. We're here to pick you up. We're like, oh, man, I don't know who's coming to pick me up. I was looking for you guys. And then it all started from there. He's very acrobatic. Like he can, you ever hear like the monkey kung fu? Like, like monkey style or tiger kung fu.
I know drunken kung fu.
Drunken kung fu, snake style kung fu.
Yeah.
Praying mantis. So he's kind of like the monkey. He can do the monkey stuff really well. You'll be walking in as soon as you wake up, and he'll be hiding on the couch in the dark and jump on your back while you're going to the bathroom.
Oh, so that's monkey kung fu.
Yeah. So he'll do that. Okay. He'll jump on your back when you're going to the bathroom.
I'm basically like Po from Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
I stole Sheikh Amar's noodles one time. So I really do match that Kung Fu Panda vibe.
Yeah. You do, mashallah. Great brother, though, mashallah. Yeah, just tell us a little about yourself. Don't get too personal, but, let the people know what's up.
I like long walks on the beach and candlelit dinners. No.
How much time have you spent in prison?
None yet. We don't know what the future holds.
Yes.
I work in the academic world. I was a teacher for a while. And then obviously, it's kind of hard to make ends meet when you're a teacher because obviously teachers are not valued as much as they should be in this society. and then I kind of fell into IT, which is like the graveyard of dreams. Everyone who kind of fails in whatever they wanted to do ends up in IT. So I managed to work in IT, but still stay in the academic realm. I pretend to be a sheikh online, and pretend to act like I know what I talk about online. And then every now and then I come and try to volunteer with different Islamic organizations. And then Sheikh Amr told me about the Man Mamluks, and I've been watching the Man Mamluks for a long time. So I have a very long commute, and then each way it's like an hour and 15 minutes to work before COVID, right? So I was listening through all of the Man Mamluks episodes from like the beginning. So I started like my nazira for Man Mamluks here, and I went through like almost all of it.
Wow. So you know all the ups and downs, the sad moments, the happy moments, the moments where we should have not been on video, but we decided to do video.
Alhamdulillah, man.
But welcome to the team, Shaz.
Yeah, bro, he's been cranking out the shorts. He's been cranking out the clips, man.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khairan, bro.
If you guys have any complaints on those shorts and clips, those are all Shaz's fault.
Yep.
No, they've been really good, man. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate your effort. He was with us when Sami Hamdi was here with all of our, and he helped us with MEC and stuff. So, mashallah, good brother, good upright brother.
Sheikh, we are coming up on Christmas. Are you celebrating anything? Christmas trees? Anything?
Bro, are we really talking about this? No, I'm not celebrating anything.
You're not.
I'm celebrating that, alhamdulillah, I'm on winter break and I'm chilling. Or my kids are, so I'm going to be chilling a little bit.
You know, my in-laws are not Muslim, so
yes, that's true.
They were asking my wife whether they can give me Christmas present. She's like, no, he doesn't celebrate Christmas. And I told her, I'm like, stop it. Tell her I didn't get any. I never got any presents when I was a kid from Santa. Bro, I was new from Medina, Saudi Arabia. I was 7 years old. I don't know what first grade or kindergarten is, but I'm sitting on Santa's lap, and he's taking notes of everything that the kid wants. So everyone in the classroom sits on Santa's lap, and they tell what Santa wants. And what the teacher does is take that list and gives it to the parents, and the parents buy them. I like the Christmas break starts. I gave my list. I come back after Christmas. All the kids are talking about all the presents they got. I didn't know what was happening. And they said, oh, you didn't give the list to Santa? I'm like, yeah, I did. I gave it. I gave it. And I didn't know even English that well, but I'm like, I gave it, you know? I'm talking like that because in Medina, I only knew Urdu and a little bit of Arabic. But so I was so sad because I thought Santa was mad at me. They said, because the kids, that's what they explained. Oh, Santa, you were probably bad. So I was.
Wait, by the way, sorry, just pause you. Are you making this up? Because I never heard the story about you. I never heard the story.
This is a true
is
story,
dope,
bro.
dude. I can't believe this.
And I was really broken up about it. And I told my parents about like why they didn't give me presents and stuff. And they said, we don't believe in this stuff. And it was just really heartbreaking because all the kids got all their presents, and I'm just sitting there. So basically, I told my wife, like, hey, I want those presents. I'm entitled to them.
What about Eid,
There was a lot of heartbreak.
No,
do non-Muslims give presents to Muslims on Eid? No, they don't. No, it's time for us to accept some presents. We're not saying we celebrate.
What is reparations or something? Is this reparational gifting?
It only makes sense, Sheikh.
It does, Sheikh. But anyways, look, bro. One thing I'll say, like, awesome, amazing shout out to the Eid Fest guys, right? The guys that do the Eid Fest. Look, I'll tell you why.
Wait, who are you talking about?
You know Eid Fest, the guys that do like the roller coasters and stuff. ICNA branch of ICNA.
Okay, so in
Fest
Chicago.
Yeah. So these guys, my kids, they love Eid because of Eid Fest, bro. That, you know, the amusement park rides and everything, the food, and like when we were growing up, bro, like, dude, no, we shouldn't be ashamed of this, but when you were growing up, when Christmas time came around as a Muslim in America, especially in the suburbs, bro, everyone's decorated, everybody's happy. You feel this warmth inside you because of Christmas, bro, and you're like, dang, bro. And then when you get older, like, why am I feeling this? Is this haram to feel this, bro? But my kids, bro, they love Eid now.
I wonder what they do in the UK. You think they have like an Eid Fest type of thing? They have like a celebration?
I'm pretty sure they do.
There just seems like they're so low on like real estate that they would probably have just like a merry-go-round. I don't know.
He's taking digs, bro.
No, I'm just saying, like, Sheikh, I think you're rubbing it in, is what I'm saying. I wouldn't have brought up the Eid Fest thing. because the some of the other parts of the Muslim, like Western Muslim world, they don't have the resources that you have, Sheikh.
No, they don't. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. But all I'm saying is, I'm glad my kids can love Eid now and not have to worry about the Christmas. They don't even care about. They like seeing the lights. Like, oh, look, all these lights are so decorated. They don't care about Christmas though. When I was growing up, I remember that, man. When you're going to public school, everything's about Christmas. Everyone's happy. Everyone talks about. Everyone wears their corny sweaters, and they're all loving it. But our kids, man, alhamdulillah, bro. They're. I'm glad that they can have that embodiment of Eid and love it.
Are you leading Christmas Eid Salah anywhere, Sheikh?
There is no Christmas Eid Salah, bro. I ain't going to no church either. No, I don't know what you guys are trying to do.
I didn't know.
All right, brothers. Time to get serious.
Yes.
Our brothers, the Houthis in Yemen.
That's how he starts it off.
They've taken matters in their own hands, Sheikh. They're doing what the brothers in Southeast Asia, in India say. They're doing the needful.
The needful.
Please do the needful. So, if you guys are in the corporate communication, they always say, "Please do the needful." So they're doing the needful. They're putting the Sunni world to shame. Now, we know that the Houthis of Yemen, they're more inclined towards the Jafri Madhab. They're not involved in a lot of the things that other Shias are kind of associated with.
Sunnis,
but nonetheless, they're technically still not Sunni, right? And it's still something that brings pride to as Muslims to our heart, that there's somebody who's doing something. That they've said, hey, we don't have a problem with all the other vessels of different countries coming through our waters. We just have a problem with the Israeli.
That distinction is beautiful.
The Israeli vessels.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you look at it, the Gulf of Aden is really if you look at the map, and I'll pull it up in a second, they should be charging a tax to every maritime vessel that is traveling through that strait into the Red Sea.
Yeah.
And they don't get anything. But so what do they call? What do all these governments call them? They call them pirates.
Exactly.
Because they're trying to get their share. Every other, Egypt and them, they're all getting their share of taxes and stuff. And
of course.
But they're
not solely the reason why they call them pirates.
They call them pirates. Well, if you ask the Somalis and why they do their pirating that they do, they're like, all these other countries make money off of their passageways and all the traffic. This costs us. This disrupts our fishing and our other disruption to our what's it called?
Ecosystem.
Yeah, ecosystem. That when they're traveling through with their ships, we need to be compensated for it. Bam. So, I don't see any problem with them.
Go through the Suez Canal without paying. See how far you get.
Yeah. So, in response, the United States set up a coalition of the willing with countries like the Seychelles and who else? The Micronesia of the world, little tiny Pacific islands. But someone stepped up to the plate from the Muslim world to help out the United States.
Yes. Which was?
The Kingdom of Bahrain. They came, Massa, how can we help you? That's what they did. Little Uncle Tom's.
Even Spain rejected.
Wow.
France was also initially wanting to help, and then they pulled out.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think their coalition is down to 7 or something now with the Pacific Islands.
I mean, it's clear to see. I mean, at one time, probably before this, France, Spain would have all been game to go down there and aid and assist. But I think it's become so obvious of the hypocrisy and the corruption when dealing with one part of the world, a conflict in one part of the world, but yet you act differently for another conflict in another part of the world. I mean, it just so happened Ukraine and what's happening between Ukraine and Russia, at least that's really a war. But you can't call what's happening in Gaza a war, because at least Ukraine has an air force, a navy, tanks, battalions, artillery, cruise missiles, real cruise missiles, and so on. And so do the Russians. But when you talk about the Palestinian resistance and these people, it's not a war. It's not a war. And so the hypocrisy is clear, and the whole world has risen. Many governments are doing an about face, not because they like to. I mean, the prime minister of Canada, that's what he is, a prime minister, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done an about face. A lot of people are doing it about, not because somehow, some way they woke up and said, you know what, my feelings have changed about things. The angel came down and touched me last night. No, but because of the pressure of the people. And as far as the Houthis, I'll tell you this. I'm a very big critic of Shia. And I wouldn't be a real big critic of Shia if it was just that the Shia believed what the Shia believed. And what I mean by that is, if it was that they believed their belief system is as we know it, but did not have that thing that they felt they needed to conquer and fight Sunni Muslims, because we all know. Have you ever been taught that you need to kill a Shia to get to heaven? Mm-hmm. We haven't. I haven't. I have never heard of it. I didn't grow religious, but I learned religion later. I have never read anything in any book that says, listen, guy, you need to go out and get you a couple of Shia so you get you a key to heaven. But they have that, and they've acted upon it. We've seen it in Syria. We've seen it in Iraq. So I just want to say that if the Shia behaved like Houthis, the Houthis are Shia. I don't have a problem with their belief system. That's their belief system. But look at them. They're not out trying to subjugate and subdue and kill Sunnis. They're out there doing stuff against the Zionist entity. We don't have a problem with that. We thank them, as a matter of fact. Now the rest, where's the rest at? When they had Syria, they were rushing to Syria. Where they at? They send 10,000 from Lebanon or 20,000 fighters from Hezbollah to fight against the Sunnis in Syria. And we're not talking about ISIS, we're talking about the Free Syrian Army, the revolutionaries. So I just wanted to make that clear so they say, well, the last time I heard that guy, the one guy that's always talking about the Shia, which means me, now all of a sudden he's cool with the Shia doing this. I have no problem with Shia. There's Palestinians that are Christians that are fighting with Muslims.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clear that up.
And one of the weird things, at least since we're just on this topic, I met many people who converted, like family members and stuff, who converted from Shia to Sunni.
Yes.
And they said, honestly, like in our family, we don't curse the Sahaba. We never say anything about Aisha or anything. Mm-hmm. But there are people who do that. We know of people who do that. Exactly. But in our family, that didn't happen. So there are many Shias who don't engage in some of this stuff.
Especially
so
if they live around Sunnis.
We're always and I don't mean to cut you off, but that's probably why they were guided.
Yeah, subhanallah.
That thing where man yahdihillah fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Whomever Allah guides astray, no one can misguide, and whomever Allah leaves astray, no one can guide. So that's probably why they came.
Subhanallah.
And once you become filthy, your heart and your mind with that kind of nonsense, Allahu alam if there is a guidance for you into true Islam.
Yeah. It's
but I just wanted to clear that up so they don't say, wait a minute.
No, it's very rational.
It's very rational. I have to explain.
It's very rational.
Look, it's honesty too, right? Yeah. We know how to make a distinction between people who are underhanded, especially within the Iranian regime, how they selectively help Gaza when they need to. And then they pull back when times of stuff.
They actually abandon them. Yeah. What the Khamenei said. He said, "Oh, we're not gonna get involved because you did this without giving us a heads up."
Yeah. Last month.
So this is like you really. That's but that's the kind of stuff. For instance, just to get a clarification, we have Palestinian Christians who are a part of the struggle.
Yes, sir.
You think as a Muslim, I'm going to deny them a fight? They're fighting the same thing. So it's not about what you believe. You could believe whatever you want to believe, but the issue here is humanity in general. I'm not going to stop.
And I know people have heard this for a while, but look, the Christians have been going through the grinder with the Muslims
Of
for a
course.
long time against Israel. The
Of
Israelis,
course.
the Zionists hate the Christians too.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys, like, we used to see some clips back in the day, but the recent clip about the Adhan, did you see that one?
Yes.
Cassis?
Yes.
That was beautiful, bro.
Wait, what are you talking about?
So there was a clip on YouTube where the brother, he was talking to a Christian priest in Palestine and said that if something happens to our masjid in the falls, we won't be able to call the Adhan. The masjid will be destroyed. He said, is that something? Is that?
Yeah, but where that came from, he questioned him. But prior to that, some weeks before that, a Christian said, "Let me tell you something. If you knock down all their mosques and all their minarets, we'll let them do the Idan out of the church."
Yes, sir.
So he was actually reiterating. He was
But he said,
saying,
if there's nobody called the Adhan, I'm going to call the Adhan for
"Oh,
you.
I didn't." Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's something.
that's
even
what the Christian
different,
priest
yes.
was saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
you know what? So, just since you guys are on this topic, they've started targeting all the Christians
Yes,
in
sir.
Gaza.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're mowing them down left and right.
Yes.
The Christian community over there is saying that we're at this rate we're on the verge of extinction. Like we're good. They're just
They bombed the third oldest church in the world.
Yeah.
The third or fourth oldest church in the world. These people have no respect for anything whatsoever. And you got to remember this: when it came to the Palestinian cause, and before Hamas came into existence, and before anyone was basically saying that no peace with these Zionists, all of our land or none, was actually a Christian guy by the name of Dr. George Habash, who was the leader, the head of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine.
Yeah.
They're very honorable people, and they're fighting for their land, our land, and they have a lot of dignity and a lot of honor.
So here's a clip from the Pope, who says, I'm sorry, 1 second here.
Unarmed civilians are subjected to bombings and shootings.
And this even happened inside the parish complex of the Holy Family, where there are no terrorists, but families, children, sick and disabled people, nuns. A mother and her daughter, Miss Nahida Khalil Anton, and her daughter, Samar Kamal Anton, were killed, and other people injured by IDF snipers while going to the restroom. The convent of Sisters of Mother Teresa was damaged, and their generator was hit. Some say it's terrorism, it's war. Yes, it's war, it's terrorism. This is why the scripture states God makes war cease, he breaks bows, and breaks spears. Let us pray to the Lord for peace. So he's gone on a limb, and he's attacking Israel now. I guess he's an anti-Semite too, right?
So, do you know how how the IDF targeted those two?
Yeah, I know,
So-
but why don't you explain it?
There was there's a charity called the Catholic. Oh man, now I'm forgetting.
That's okay.
But it's basically the Catholic Services. It's one of the biggest charities in the United States. It's affiliated with the Catholic Church. It's a part of the Catholic Church, and they sent a letter to the senators saying, "Tell Israel not to target these 4 holy churches, and these are some of the oldest churches in the Holy Land area." The IDF got that. They actually went and targeted those churches that the U.S. senators told not to target, and that was given to them by the Catholic, refugee
Catholic charities.
Catholic charities.
Psychos, bro.
So the Catholic Church worked with U.S. senators to tell the Israeli government, don't target these churches. There's no terrorists there. There's no Hamas there.
They probably would have been better off not saying anything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so-
So IDF specifically targeted 2 of those 4,
Yeah.
and that one of those 2 was where these 2 women were shot by snipers.
Jeez, I didn't know about the charities thing in the center. So, Sim, dude, I need you two to help me understand this. whenever it happens to Muslims, again, Muslims have been talking about this for decades. We knew the whole time what was happening and what can potentially happen. But when it happens to Christians and what happens to America's connection with the Christians and the senators, it's like, whoa, what is going on here now? And like, how come they're not stopping? Why are they doing exactly what the senators told them not to do? And where are they getting the audacity? Is it that they have an audacity, or is it they've just gone completely off the hinges?
This is Israel, is the IDF giving the middle finger to anyone telling them how they should do anything.
Exactly. And is this why Biden is clamping down on they're kind of clamping down on Israel?
This is just a symptom. I mean, in general, Biden and the American government is very unhappy because it's making them look bad. It's creating a negative opinion in the Muslim world against America. So in general, it does an incredible amount of damage to American reputation because they are the sole funders of Israel. No other country supplies Israel with anything related to aid. They sell them weapons and stuff, but related to aid specifically, Israel is held by the United States.
Yeah.
So, but what are they
going to do about all the church? I mean, when it comes, look, we understand with the Muslim thing, we get it. But when it comes to Christians and all these Christians being mowing the lawn of Christians, what's next?
Well, the funny thing is with Christians, that's what's so shocking, is that you see in this country, the Christian community, at least specifically the Protestants and stuff, they don't care.
No, they don't.
They don't care. They don't see the Palestinian Christians as real Christians.
No, they don't. It's not even. It's that, but it's more.
But the oldest churches and everything are there too.
It doesn't matter. So they don't care about
Southern Baptists are part of like overall Protestants.
The evangelical, the whole
evangelicals, yes. Protestants, they're all like one group,
yes.
And they don't get along. And again, I'm not an expert, but they don't get along as well with Roman Catholics and with Eastern Orthodox churches. And this is kind of like, it kind of leads back to the old Crusades. When one of the Crusades was coming, there was multiple Crusades.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, one of the Crusades, they kind of like, hey, rather than walking all the way to the, Palestine area, why don't we just attack Constantinople? They're Orthodox Christians. They're not real Christians. Let's just go attack them. And it's like history rhymes and repeats itself.
But when it comes to the Christians, though, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like,
yes.
you know Palestine very well. You know how many Christians are in Palestine. I get the denominations not getting along with each other. But when it comes to Christians, it's like, oh my God.
And it's not only Catholics that are Christian in Palestine. You have Orthodox. You have, I went to a school that was called El Injiliya Lotaria, which I'm guessing a Lutheran church, a Lutheran school. But the issue with the vision of Western evangelical Zionist Christians is to put on blinders like a horse and look straight forward.
But even if the Pope speaks about it?
They don't care about the Pope. They don't care about anybody. The vision of Zionist Christians, there's a book, and the name of the book is Forcing God's Hand.
Yes.
Or Forcing the Hand of God. And it explains the vision of, actually it exposes the vision of Zionist evangelical Christians in the West. In that they don't see anything but that vision that they, between those blinders. And that vision is to support the Zionist entity to occupy Palestine, go to the Dome of the Rock, knock it down, build the third temple, hence forcing the hand of God to send down Jesus. Why wait for it to happen naturally? Let's force it. Because to happen naturally, you would have to wait for the Messiah of the Jews. And the Messiah of the Jews is, according to the Jews, is not Jesus. So why wait for all of that when we could do this? Help these people to take Palestine over, help these people to knock down and push them to knock down Masjid al-Aqsa, build the third temple. Hence, you force God's hand, and he will say, everything has happened. And unnatural, but it's done. Send Jesus down. And look, and the Jews, Zionist Jews, know the plan of the Zionist Christians, in that the Zionist Christians believe that when the return of Jesus, he comes, he's going to wipe out 70% of the Zionists. So they know, look, they're helping us so we could knock down this, build this, so the Messiah can come and kill us.
Yeah.
But the thing that doesn't bother the Zionist Jews is that they don't even believe in God.
Yeah.
They don't believe in this myth.
They're just
they
helping
believe
them.
They believe that the Christians are foolish in their belief. So they're cool. They're
Yeah.
cool. Nothing like this is going to happen because we don't believe in that belief system. So the Zionist evangelical Christians in the West can't see anything but that vision. If it means murdering all the original Christians of the world who are Palestinians, so be it. You
To
see?
help each other, even though it involves killing of
Yes,
one another.
they're both snakes. They're snakes. We're gonna get them to do this. I know why you want us to do this because you want.
But I'm gonna do it.
But keep helping us because I don't believe in your belief. I believe all that stuff you're believing is hocus pocus. I don't believe in even your religion because the Talmud tells you that they don't. They don't believe Jesus was the Messiah. They believe he was a magician. They believe he was I mean some filthy stuff. If you go to the Talmud and see what the Talmud believes about Jesus, you won't believe it. I mean, they believe that he there's a story in there that in the Talmud between rabbis sitting in the old city and they watch a boy these boys come through the gates of Jerusalem, and the one rabbi tells the other rabbi, you know about this boy whose head is uncovered? And no, I don't know. And he says, that boy right there, his ma married a guy. That night that his ma got married, her husband couldn't go into her because she had her menstrual cycle. So she cheated on her husband with his best man, and that's the child of that birth. And they're talking about Jesus.
Auzubillah.
And in the Talmud, it states that he is burning in feces in hell.
Auzubillah.
So this is the kind of stuff. So you think they believe what the Christian? Yeah, help us. Yeah, we'll knock it down. Yeah, because they don't believe in anything. Anyway, most Zionists are not even religious. But they'll tell you they're religious because they've taken this Talmudic ideology and intertwined it into their culture. So they don't believe in God, but they believe that God promised them this land. Mm-hmm. This is
and I think because of this, they're also mowing down the Hasidic Jews and stuff too. Like they don't care about them people anymore either, right?
Yeah, they don't. They'll disrespect them. They'll beat them up, but they're not out there like butchering them.
They won't butcher them. Do you think it won't get to that point?
No, because they're not doing that. They're not a threat to them. They believe. They haven't been a threat, but now they're a little bit more of a threat because they're standing in demonstrations.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about now because of demonstrations.
Yeah,
I'm talking about now because of demonstrations.
Possibly, but they don't. They don't really care. They even call them. They don't. Those are not real Jews.
Yeah,
but those are followers of Torah. They really are following the Torah, because the Torah basically states not to establish a homeland for the Jews until the Messiah comes.
So coming back to the Houthis, man, like these interceptions and them not willing to work with Israel, what type of pressure now are we going to be expecting?
Quick question: Are the Houthis Zaydi Shia?
Used to be. Now they're Houthis.
Okay.
Houthi is actually a sect.
Okay. So we had
but they used to be called Zaydi or Yazidi.
We had a question in the comments asking to explain the difference between the Shia in Yemen and Sunnis for you.
Oh wow. The ones in Yemen specifically, I don't. That's kind of a Mort question. I don't know anything about the Shias in Yemen.
Well, I mean, Shia in general have, and I'm not an expert on it, but we could give basically it's a logical answer.
You could talk about it pretty proficiently.
Yeah. So the Shia in general have, if you look, there's the Ja'fari, there's the Ithna Ashariya, there's the Yazidis, there's the Ismailis, there's the Alawites, and they're far. There's even Druze came out of Shia. So some people may argue differently, but whatever the case may be, at least the Shia in the Houthis in general, at least what I get from friends of mine who are Yemeni Sunnis from Aden who live in Michigan, is that at least those Shia, they are not people who curse the Sahaba and our beloved mother Aisha, at least that. But the issue with this is this: I don't have, and anybody, no Sunni should have an issue with Shia based on their belief. The problem is, you see, because I don't have to stand in front of Allah and answer for you. you're going to have to answer for yourself. I'm going to have to answer for myself. I can't even answer for my daughter, and she can't answer for me. But the issue with when we talk about what this heavy talk lately in the past 5, 10, 20 years, the heavy talk about the Shia is because what has been happening in the Muslim world where Sunnis, and there's been videos where people are talking about there's a video from a fighter from Hezbollah in Syria where he says, cursing the Sunnis and saying, if we have to go to the end of the world to find the last Sunnis, we're going to kill all of you. Things like that, that's the problem. Mm-hmm. But it's not our problem is not that you're a Shia, you have to answer for your belief. But so the difference between the Houthis and the Sunnis is obviously whatever Shia between. We believe in the Quran and the Sunnah. We believe in the Sahaba. We believe that they were Khulafa al-Rashideen. A lot of other things we don't believe that Ali was. It's a slew of things, but you have to study it yourself.
So it seems like, just to summarize what you're saying, that the Shia in Yemen have a political difference in that they believe after the Prophet ﷺ, his family should have taken leadership of the Ummah, right?
Well, that's
one of the primary differences.
That's the belief of all Shia.
Okay,
is that Ali should have been the Khalifa. But if that was just the issue, it wouldn't be a problem. And I don't want to turn this into a Shia Sunni discussion, but all that is fine and dandy until you start to curse the companions of Prophet Muhammad, and you could curse our mother, the mother of the believers, the biggest scholar in Islam. She gives most hadith.
So do the Zaydis believe that you should curse the Sahaba?
No. The Houthis.
The Houthis and the Zaydis.
Well, the Houthis.
The Houthis are Zaydi.
Yeah, used to be Zaydis.
But I mean, they're pretty much they're a political representation of Zaydi.
And there's a difference.
So the Zaydis do not. It's not part of their belief to curse the Sahaba, right?
No. So it's more. It's a very, I guess.
That's what people say. Yeah, that's liberal. What people say. Out of all the Shias, the closest one to the Sunnis are the Zaydis. And look, exactly. We have to understand, even with the other sects of the Shias, some of them believe in the tahrif of the Quran, and there's different versions of the Quran. They have and Mahdi alayhi salam has the original Quran that they have, and it's a whole bunch of mess. But from what I understand, wallahu alam, the Zaydis they don't really have too much of that because a lot of that's political too. But just to recap on what he was saying too, which is a very, very important point. What's very important to understand, if Shias were staying in their own quarters and not so political and not involved in bloodshed and they were just doing their own thing, nothing would have happened to them. That's why he's saying they have to answer to Allah. We obviously don't agree with a lot of foundational stuff there, but if they're staying to themselves and they're doing their own thing and they don't claim that they're representation of Muslims and Islam, and they could do their own thing, that's between them and Allah, right? When they cross over and start propagating, when they cross over and start genociding, when they cross over, that's where it becomes a big problem, right? And I think that the issue with the Houthis now is, and I'm glad you brought that up in the beginning, is we're not saying this to promote, in a sense, the Houthis and what they're doing. It's look at what these people are doing, who can be labeled as pirates and who are not nearly as powerful as what people deem them to be. But they're the only ones that literally said, we're going to deal with everybody except for the Israelis in these waters.
And there's a hadith by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam pertaining to both people, the Palestinians from that land and the Yemenites, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talks about, says, I am a Yemeni, about himself. Yeah. So there's a blessing in those people, and there's a blessing in Palestine and what's going on in Palestine. Not that we're superior, and I don't want to get into that, but the issue is, anytime if you saw your neighbor who's a Christian, who's an atheist, who's a whatever, and he was doing justice, you give him credit and acknowledge that he is doing. You're not sitting there critiquing his religion.
Yeah.
And this is the same stuff. If it wasn't that they... Look, I had a discussion with an Iraqi one time, a Shiite. And he says, Ini mubhib Iran. This is a time when I really didn't know much about Shiite. And what
know much about Shiite.
And I said to him, at the time, there was talk that they were helping the Palestinians. This is like in probably the year 2000. And I said, "Ini bhub Iran." I like Iran. Iran. So it's not, and they were Shia, but it wasn't until I saw what was being done in Syria that I knew exactly what their feelings and what their thoughts are, and what happened in Fallujah and what happened in Mosul, where a baby was taken and put into an oven in front of his mom and dad, and the oven was turned on, and the bragging about how we do this and that. So that was the issue. It's not that you're a Shia, I don't like you. There's Christians in the world.
The beautiful thing about the Zaydi Shias is that they took their name from Zayd ibn Ali, the great grandson of Ali radiallahu anhu. And he was known for fighting corruption. And so that's why the Zaydis or the Houthis revere that political aspect of Zaydi Shiaism so much, because that's what they wanted to bring in Yemen. They wanted to fight that corruption. And because if for anyone who knows, the Sunni government in Yemen was primarily aligned with the Saudi Arabia, and they're corrupt. They're one of these people who just hoard the wealth, and the wealth only goes to the top. And they have this quality in them where they're always fighting corruption, and they want justice in the land. So there are really beautiful qualities about them, irrespective of whatever your feelings are towards them. I don't know their belief system in detail. I'm sure someone will say, "How dare you say this about them when they did this?" Look, there's bad things about everyone, and if you pick the bad thing about one person, one group, and you just superimpose it on the larger group, I think that's a problem. Specifically, though, with what's happened with Iran and Syria and Bashar, that wasn't like an isolated incident. This was a political program of genocide that happened to Sunnis all across Syria and Iraq.
And it was simply because majority of the country, which was Sunnis, wanted to rule themselves and wanted to rule their country. They said, enough, 40 years of these people, and they took all their might and their power, and they brought people from all over the world to keep that from happening. Simply because it would have been a Sunni ruling government.
With the help of Russia, by the way. So they killed over 1 million people in Syria.
Yeah, and exiled, how many? 10?
10,000.
10 million.
10 million.
Was it?
Yeah. Millions are in exile. Millions.
Numbers I didn't know about. That's crazy.
Yeah, millions are in exile.
Yeah, they reduced homes to rubble. Several cities all across Syria just to hold on to power. Their desperate attempt to. Again, this is a branch of Shiaism called Alawi Shiaism with Bashar, and how he took power over there was just, I don't care how many people are protesting, I'm just going to level you all. I'm just going to murder you.
Yeah, and
he didn't care about anything.
Another part of this is, so as they were bringing people from all over the world to fight for the Shia, so were young men from Sunni Islam traveling to Syria to fight. Every country that had people leaving to go fight, and forget ISIS. We're not talking about ISIS. Take them out of the equation. They didn't come till later. We're talking about the fight for the Free Syrian Army, which developed into the future. We're talking about the Syrian people who were fighting for their freedom. A lot of people went over there to fight with them. Every government labeled those people as terrorists, and they put them on the wanted list. If they were to come back, they were going to be arrested. Well, how come not the same is not going on for Israel right now? There's 10,000
or Ukraine.
Or Ukraine. There's 10,000 South African whites fighting against the people of Gaza. There's people from all Americans. There's people from all over the world, even India. So how come those people are not terrorists? How come no Muslim or no Palestinian or no Arab that's right here and walks up and says, I want to go fight on the side of the Gazan people? You're not allowed. So why do you allow them? See, that's the hypocrisy that the whole world is noticing and sees. And I'm telling you, I saw the numbers. There's people from South Sudan, 3,000 of them, dressed in Israeli army that were brought there to fight. So look at these people. And there's also people from Spain, France, and other places who are being paid 4,000 pounds a month to fight.
And on the flip side, when the Russian invasion of Ukraine happened, they formed the Ukraine Foreign Legion.
Mm-hmm.
All the governments got together. They
Yeah.
said, you can go. The governments were helping finance it, and thousands of people from Europe and North America went to fight for Ukraine.
Yeah.
And they were given free rides there and
Heroes.
back.
Heroes.
Yeah,
They were regular heroes.
Ukraine said that they'll pay for all of their medical attention if they get hurt. They'll pay for their if they died, they were going to pay for them to have their corpse flown back to their families.
Yeah.
The Foreign Legion, and they got passports for Ukraine. So much stuff.
And Zelensky can come here and ask for $4 billion
Yeah.
shamelessly.
And then, all the governments were in on it. So it's
Yeah,
like,
we
the hypocrisy is insane.
Yeah.
One country invades Ukraine, totally okay to support it. Another country invades, the occupied lands of Palestine. It's just like night and day hypocrisy.
Send people from all over the world to fight for the diaper soldiers because the diaper soldiers can't fight. Yeah, they're urinating on themselves and they're defecating on themselves. Did you see the one of them? The interview what
Yep.
he gave, he says he urinates on himself at night. He can't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's the punishment of Allah. That's the punishment of Allah. You haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen the punishment of Allah come down upon you. See, and they've gotten to the point where they actually feel that the power they have is them. They've become so arrogant, they've become like Pharaoh. They believe they are gods walking on earth and everybody else is beneath them. And most of this sickness is derived from the Talmud. And of course, we are never talking about Jews. We have to say this. We have to be clear. We're talking about Zionists. Zionist is an entity that is secular, that has nothing to do with the religion of Judaism. The people of Torah are our brothers and sisters. So we're not talking about those. We're talking about somebody that has a nationalistic ideology called Zionism. And if Zionism is an ideology that means oppress, kill, exile, and do whatever that is evil to a people, we're going to have to talk about it, plain and simple. So they become like Pharaoh, gods on earth. They can't be touched. I mean, when a rabbi sits and he talks, a Zionist rabbi sits and talks and says that the Palestinian people want to be slaved. Don't you understand? They want to be our slaves. They're going to be happy by being our slaves.
Hey, who is this?
This is a rabbi, a Zionist rabbi. I have some of the stuff in my posted in my TikTok. So when you have that, what do you expect from a people to behave? They fooled themselves to think that they are so powerful and that they are lasted this long and they've defeated militaries and they feed them all this garbage. First of all, if it wasn't for the United States, who has fought most of your wars, England, who has supplied you with everything and fought some of your wars, and Germany, France, you wouldn't be anything. Your nuclear program came from France. All your weapons and your money comes from the United States and England. Germany just recently, I don't know, the last 20, 30 years, stopped paying you reparations. All your buses and everything else was coming from Germany. So how you didn't do it yourself, and now you're fighting, you're causing a genocide, fighting against an armed resistance that has, other than AK-47's homemade rockets, and you can't even do it. You need somebody else to come fight for you.
Yeah, and now the numbers are getting pretty crazy about how many of them are visiting hospitals and how many of them are actually injured and killed.
Did you see
they're
how
trying to
one
hide
of
the
them
numbers.
said they're hiding, they're lying. There's a lot of dead soldiers out here and blah, blah, blah. This
That's
is
why the
from a
recruitment.
soldier.
They need all those recruitments from other countries too.
And we still have people talking about people still bringing up this crap about stuff that has been already debunked over and over. The babies debunked. The rape
1,200
debunked. The number. Then we also have the videos of the Apache helicopters murdering their own people. Then we have a tank. Now the latest.
Do you know about the Hannibal Directive?
Yeah.
So the Israelis have this program called the Hannibal Directive that basically is a green light for their own army to kill their own Israeli citizens. So in the event that they don't, to prevent them from being captured.
Yeah. But the Hannibal Directive is only for soldiers, not for civilians. But they murdered civilians doing it. Wow. They're not supposed to do it against civilians. Now it has come out that they were doing it against civilians. So for instance, if a Hamas fighter has an Israeli soldier with him right here, then they are directed to take both of them out. But if it's a civilian, they're not directed to take, but they did it anyways. Now there's video out that was released by the Israeli government. And the crazy part about this, all the stuff I'm saying has come out in Israeli
newspaper.
News. Yeah, the Haaretz. And there's also an article just broke from a news organization called KAN 11, KAN 11. In that, there was an individual by the name of Nico, after October 7th, immediately after, who said he saw 28 of his friends and family members that were murdered by the resistance. Now it's come out that all the names he gave are alive and well in so-called Israel. They were nowhere near this concert or the area. So you see, all this stuff is being debunked, and you still have Zionists to get on and repeat the same stuff over and over again. You're dealing with a people who want a narrative that is full of nonsense and lies and fabrications.
And they double down. They're not ashamed to, because they have to keep going with it.
No.
The whole thing is, when Douglas Murray was talking to Cenk Uygur, and that Douglas Murray guy pisses me off.
I hate him.
He's so snobby.
I can't stand it.
But he's like, if Israel wanted to, they could have been doing. It's not a genocide. If they wanted to, they could have dropped a nuclear. Like, so simplistic. They could have dropped a nuclear bomb on them and wiped them out. So there's not a genocide. If they wanted to, they actually have mercy.
They dropped the equivalent of 2 nuclear bombs on them, without dropping the actual radiation.
So that's how they play with games, though, without the exact radiation. But the damage is very, very similar. Yeah. But they keep saying that same thing, those narratives. But one thing I notice about them when I'm watching them is there's 2 things. Number one, they just continue as if nobody's debunking anything. Exactly. They just keep going.
But that's what I'm trying
to
tell
you. They have no shame.
Listen. So one of their directives for the Hasbara. So the Israeli government has this program called Hasbara. It's a Hebrew word, and it literally means explaining, but it's part of their propaganda network. And they have hundreds and thousands of people that are part of this propaganda network. And they openly say it's the time it takes for someone to debunk it, to do the research, to get the message out. By the time they do that, you're tying up resources for the enemy. So it's easier to just keep lying and keep going, because it's easier to spread 100 lies in the time it takes for them to debunk 1 lie.
Wow.
And
Shayateen, bro.
And not just that, their tactic, if you pay attention to it, it's always the same. It's put you on the defensive, and we'll never get anywhere. As soon as you debunk something, as soon as you say something about the babies, condemn Hamas, one after the other, as soon as you finish, you'll never get a chance to deal with them.
What's the most clever thing that they started right now that completely derailed the news of Gaza and Palestine off the news? The whole Harvard and all the colleges that are supposedly doing or calling for genocide, and they held congressional hearings, calling the leaders of each of these colleges, like Harvard and Penn, and they completely changed the narrative just by saying that, there's people who are calling for the genocide of all Jews. And there may have been a couple incidents here and there, but the majority of people majority of Zionists or Jews in general in these colleges are completely fine, and they're not complaining at all.
Well,
But they don't care. By the time you debunk that, they've already spread a dozen other lies.
Well, the thing they're using now is this thing. They come up with different things at different times. The thing they're using now is, you're saying the river to the sea. That means wipe us out. Wait a minute. First of all, you started that saying the river to the sea. And as a matter of fact, for the most liberal Zionists, the two lines on the flag, those are two waters. Some use it as the Mediterranean to the Jordan, and Netanyahu's father was more than that, including Netanyahu when he showed the picture of Greater Israel recently when he gave that speech.
In the UN.
The map in front of him at the UN. So you're saying that is the Nile at the bottom and the Euphrates at the top. And everything in between that to be Jewish and nothing else. Zionist Jews. Okay, so you are the one who started from the river to the sea. But our river to the sea is totally different than your river to the sea. And what I mean by that is, when a Palestinian Muslim says from the river to the sea, he means Palestinian Jews, Palestinian Muslims, and Palestinian Christians. When you say from the river to the sea, you're saying Zionist Jews, everybody else out. That's the difference. Big difference.
A very big difference.
So one is actually a genocide. Your way of saying it is genocide, but not my way.
So, quick question. I want to kind of loop back to one thing that Brother Imad said, is that when you have the Houthis, right, and they are putting this pressure on the trade, how do you think that's going to affect the Israeli economy?
Oh,
I mean, we already know it's...
Oh, it has affected. It has crushed it. It has crushed it till the traders in the Gulf countries, not all of them, the UAE, I think, did it. Bahrain and Saudi and the Jordanian government. They allowed shipments to go up, but it crushed them. It showed the port of Eilat empty with nothing in it. Nothing in it. So they actually, look, a small group of Houthis, what they did. Small group of people, poor people. The Yemeni people are forget their beliefs. If you know Yemenis, they're very hospitable people.
And Yemen is one of the poorest countries
One
in
of
the
the
region,
poorest
right?
countries in the region. Look at them. Imagine if there was movement from one more place.
No, imagine if Erdogan and Azerbaijan and the pipelines. What if there was some even a threat of a freeze there? Imagine what would happen. It would be astronomical compared to what the Houthis are doing.
Yes.
What the Houthis are doing absolutely nothing.
Explain that the pipeline. What pipeline?
So the Azerbaijan pipeline, which runs through Israel, and Israel gets their oil from Azerbaijan, and it's Erdogan which is responsible for that pipeline. Turkey is responsible for that pipeline, and if I'm not mistaken, Erdogan has 100 or I think 90% control of that pipeline, right?
Yeah.
So wait,
And
one
where the
second. I
funds?
just want to correct one thing. You said that it runs through Israel, but I think you mean it runs through Turkey, right?
Turkey, but Israel benefits through it.
Yeah,
Basically. They're
it goes
beneficiary.
so it's Azerbaijan, Turkey, then Israel.
Yes, they're beneficiaries of it.
Yes.
Major beneficiaries of it, right? And that. So what I'm trying to say is, what the Houthis. This is why it's shameless. Like what the Houthis are doing is not even a touch compared to that. It's absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So,
And they're able to have this stranglehold because the region that passes right through Yemen, the Bab al-Mandab, right? It's like 30 kilometers, right?
the port of Aden. Yeah.
So the port of Aden goes through most of South Yemen. It's like parallel.
Yeah.
Then there's a small little turn, almost like a little elbow.
Yeah.
And that section is like 30 kilometers wide. And it's very small, very narrow. And that's at the bottom left-hand corner of Yemen. So they have almost total control over
Yes.
that. You can, 30 kilometers is nothing. And even if, so I read a report that even with like the cheapest drones, which are like $2,000-$3,000, they can reach the other side. So they have a very tight hold on that.
That's the opening to the Red Sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this coalition that the United States is trying to put together, they're using anti-ballistic missiles that cost $11 million, $12 million. So a lot of people, a lot of analysts are saying like, this is not a sustainable coalition. You're going to be spending $11, $12 million to shoot down a $2,000 drone that's could easily be made in like, some little factory, even if it's in the poorest country of the world. Like,
it's ridiculous.
so, and these ships that you're, keeping in the Red Sea or in the Gulf of Eden, they need to be supplied. Those people need to be fed. Those ships need diesel. It's expensive to maintain these ships in that region, and it's a hostile region. So the logistics just do not match up, and that's why countries are dropping out.
Yeah.
And then did you guys hear about Malaysia?
What about Malaysia?
Yeah, Malaysia did. They cut off maritime access to Israeli ships in their waters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Malaysia.
Done that long.
yeah, so, I mean, there's not.
Let 'em
the
lay-
Israelis were laughing, saying, "Oh, we don't even bring many of our ships over there." So it's like
For
saying
me,
that
it's interesting because I haven't heard Malaysia in the news in a long time.
It's more than what other countries did.
Exactly.
You know,
But, so they're
it's
laughing,
not-
but I think that's propaganda because Malaysia and Indonesia, they straddle the Straits of Malacca. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know exactly. But that's one of the most important shipping lanes in the world.
Is it really?
Yeah. So when you try to go from China, most of the stuff that comes to, let's say, the Indian Ocean from China goes through Indonesia, Malaysia, that region of waters. So if Malaysia and, let's say, for example, in the future, Indonesia jump on board too, and they say you can't dock here, all of those Israeli container ships that are owned by Zim Corporation, which is one of the biggest companies in Israel, where are they going to refuel? Even if those things are not coming to Israel, Zim is a major corporation that has hundreds and thousands of, shipping containers and hundreds of ships. And they're in the shipping business. So if you're shipping all around the world, you need ports all around the world. And if all of a sudden countries start closing off and saying, hey, you can't refuel with us, that's going to throw off your entire shipping industry.
the Indonesian hospital in Gaza. You remember when there were talks about the IDF bombing it? That hospital was funded by Indonesian people. It wasn't a government initiative. It was every average Indonesian who could give whatever they can. So when you had those doctors coming on Instagram and explaining hey, there's no Hamas here. This is our plan. This is our blueprint of our building. This is what our objectives are, mission. There's no Hamas here. There's no military operations being conducted from our building. They're wearing these badges that are given to anyone who donated to building that hospital, and so all across Indonesia, you'll see people who wear that badge with pride because they have so much pride in that they were able to construct this hospital in Gaza with their own crowdsourced fund. It's a beautiful objective that these just ordinary citizens of Indonesia just said, hey, we're going to do something about it, even though our government didn't do anything. But this time, it looks like the government made some kind of initiative where they're going to be preventing Israeli vessels from coming in.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that about the
people, man.
Indonesian hospital.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I always thought that was an Indonesian government thing.
So I think it's really interesting that, you have this very poor country, Yemen, and they took a step and they stood up, and the entire world is like saying that this is a genocide, the UN resolution. So it's not like they're acting outside of law. They're not pirates. They're setting up an economic blockade. And then they took the first step. They had the courage to do it. And now Malaysia closed their ports too. And then you could see a chain effect happening. And if, even one other country closes their ports, that can have to Israeli shipping, that could have a huge, huge effect.
And this is what I'm talking about, Shaz. Like, remember, even when we're going through MEC and all these other places, the governments and the powers that we expected were supposed to make a move because they have power and they have more grandeur. Like, what's Yemen in front of them? What's Malaysia in front of them? Nobody even hears about Malaysia. But it's coming from these places, the movements and changes that occur. And we, as human beings, we're going to continue. This is going to continue happening. It's not a bad thing, but we're never going to be, if we have the right glasses on, the right lenses on, we're never going to be in a situation where, Allah never ceases to amaze us. Allah always is going to be in a position where we're always amazed by Allah, where we think that we have our eyes set on these powers, the Saudis and the Emirates and this and that, the Turkeys, the bigger countries. And then you have like the Houthis that are making an effect. Yeah. You have the Malaysians that nobody hears about. Malaysians' economy is pretty strong. I think in like the 2000s, the early 2000s, they had one of the strongest economies in the world. But regardless, you never hear them in the world arena.
Small country.
Right? Small country. Small islands here and there. But, the changes come from places that you never expect, man. Like, I didn't know. I had no idea about the Malaysian thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I saw a thing on it about ships. I didn't pay too much attention to it other than that, but now I get the clear picture when he said
man.
what the meaning was.
Mashallah, dude.
But, we should actually talk a little bit about the situation in this country and the support this country gives these people and the amount of money that is given to these people and how people in this country should wake up and start getting involved in this political system and the voting. You have 350 million Americans and only 80 million people vote. And you wonder why these politicians are doing as they please with the school systems, because they know people. This wasn't by mistake. This was calculated. This was like solving a math problem, and
Well, the problem, Imad, is that they're both Democrats and Republicans are bought in this country by the Israeli lobby.
Yes, but not only that, they themselves are corrupt in the sense that there is really no two-party system in this country.
It's just one
There's
party.
one party pretending to be two parties to trick the people into believing that they actually have. See, we are a democratic country. We are a republic. We do have two parties. We give you a choice between this mafia guy and this common criminal guy. Which one you want? I mean, that's the whole thing. But they're both on the same team. Both of them are exactly on the same team. How do we, as in a nation like this, find money for prisons? How is the Bureau of Prisons? When I went to federal prison, there was, I think, 67,000 inmates. Yeah. I think there's about 300,000 now. Look how it's growing. How is the budget for 300,000 inmates 6.9, or it was in 2017, $13 billion? How? When Buffalo, New York is 290,000 people and their budget is not even that. How?
That's crazy.
How for inmates you spend $30,000 a year? Well, I know people out here that live off of $30,000. They pay their rent, they pay a car payment, and they pay their bills, and they feed their kids off $35,000. Yes, they're struggling, but they're able to do all that. What is it that an inmate in prison, you're spending $40,000 on them? How? And this is all a scam. This is all a scam and scamming the American public. These people are involved in treason. You defund education and you fund prisons. You've turned prisons into a private industry. You give Israel billions of dollars a year. Israel, if at $5 billion a year, is 15 million a day. Wow. 15 million. Imagine what you do with 15 million a day for American citizens, for the American people. What you would do. There's no more vocational schools, publicly funded vocational schools, really. There is no help for the people. I do social work. I can't really help people with too much of nothing. I fight every which way to try to get some money. They give them, through the Salvation Army, $600 a one-time shot. But $600, the guy is in debt to his landlord, $10,000. $10,000, and then you blame the people on welfare in this society for this problem. They give a mother with 5-6 kids an extra $50 a month, and they trick the people into believing that $50 they gave that woman a month, she's the one breaking this country. They sold off the meter system in Chicago to a private entity. That's supposed to be money that's supposed to generate to help the taxes, to help the taxpayer. They sold off, look, the camera system, the red light camera system is a private entity. They sold the Skyway. Now it's up for sale again by some Canadian investment group. It's up for sale again at $3 billion or $2.5 billion. You sold all the infrastructure that you had no business selling because it belongs to the public. And these politicians are doing that because as Americans, people are not involved, and there's so much division in this country. It is calculated and is put together this way that they want the blacks to be with the blacks, the whites to be with the whites, and the Hispanics to be with the Hispanics, and everybody to hate everybody, each other, and never have a minute of peace in order to unite and see what we do that is better for the country. And you have this one with a superior attitude and thinking that these people are inferior, and we're all inferior to these elitists.
Yeah, they want, the game is to get everyone to worry about differences between each other. Look at everything and anything within society except that we're stealing all your money.
Exactly.
All the money that you should be worried about, but you're worried, bickering amongst yourselves about, this social issue and that social issue, and that's how they crafted the game in the left and right politics, where, well, everyone gets upset about abortion. The whole abortion thing was pretty much settled. There wasn't much. Put aside the Islamic aspect of it, and we know how Islam feels about abortion and stuff, but just looking at it, pull yourself out of society and just kind of look at it from the top and see how all of a sudden they brought this debate back into the foray, where it wasn't even it was all settled, but then they made it an issue again because they want people to focus on stuff that is anything but all the profit that they're taking from American society. I mean, how many Americans now? The numbers are already in. Most Americans can't even afford a home anymore.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Afford a home what? you buy a house for $300,000 and you pay the house off, but you still owe $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year in taxes. So you haven't paid the house. You still owe. You got a mortgage. That $9,000. Try not to pay that and see what happens. Another thing, we have crime. I'll tell you what. If we even forget Islam, Christianity, whatever, Frederick Douglass said that we have this crime problem all over the country. He said it is easier to take and create strong men from babies than to wait for them when they get older, break, and you try to fix them. We can't even follow that and invest in these communities in order to reverse this mess. They created all this. There used to be gangs in the city of Chicago that controlled the neighborhoods. Yes, they were an evil, but they were the least of the two evils that's created now. They took all the lions out of the neighborhood and put them in jail simply because they were a part of this thing. They wanted to do this on purpose, and they crushed a whole system that was developed within the community to police its own self. And they left the hyenas to run the neighborhood. And this is the product we have now. Kids having kids, kids raising kids, kids who have no idea of what life is. I deal with young men, 16 years old, and I'm sorry to say they're like zombies, bro. It's difficult to get through to them, and it's not their fault. They've been conditioned to be this way in the sense that they have given up on life at age 16 or 15. They have dreams about certain things, and you know what those dreams are? Is a Challenger SRT. How? By figuring a computer system to be able to break into the car and steal it. Not that I work and get a job, and my job is to try to direct them towards that, and it is very difficult, especially if a child has been poisoned for 17 years. I come to them with a mouth. A mouth is not enough. We need to come with substance in our hands. I have a discussion with you. When I leave you, I go to my house, and you, from that moment, moving forward, you're still in the same position that you were in before we started talking. But they don't care about the people in this country. These politicians need to be removed, and new people need to be put in place. Why is it that an ordinary Joe, an IT guy, cannot be, or engineer, or a construction worker can't be in politics? Why is it that he has to be connected with someone? The good old boy politics are still here. Corruption is still here. It's just more sophisticated and it's more honest looking. And they lie to the people regularly. Why do we need to pass, when every time crime goes up, we need to go pass another gun law? How many gun laws do we need to say, do we need to pass to say that it is illegal to possess an illegally gotten gun? We already have 10 million laws. We waste 6 months in hearings about passing more gun laws that we already have in order to flamboozle the people and act like we're doing something when we're not doing nothing. Joe Biden passed a law, fought for a law to be passed in 1994 that decimated this country, especially the African American community and the Hispanic community. The 1994 crime bill. This guy, this racist, that objected to his kids traveling in buses with black kids because he wanted to keep segregation. This guy who says his kids going to school on buses with black kids is like putting his kids in the jungle. Is
that Joe Biden?
Yes, that's Joe Biden. Yes, and people want to talk about Democrat. The biggest enemies to the African American community and to the minorities and to the disadvantaged has been the Democratic Party. Whether it was Bill Clinton, whether it's Biden, whether it's Bill Clinton's wife, whether it's Obama. We talk about Obama. Obama murdered more Muslims with the drone program than any other president prior to him.
I don't know.
Hey, when you said Obama, that just reminded me. Sorry, I'm gonna.
Yeah, no. I want you. No, I want you to. I've
heard rumors online that Obama funded this movie on Netflix. That's basically creating like almost like a test, like a temperature of society for the next civil war.
About this too, yeah.
And then a company called A24, which makes like really trippy mind trip movies, is coming out with a movie for Civil War II.
Wow. See, they bring this time. They light up the flames to create these things.
Yeah,
this type of thing.
And everyone online
now
is saying
everybody's
like,
sitting at home
they're
eating
trying to test
pizza,
society.
watching a movie. And all of a sudden, this guy's sitting there somewhere talking about how do we ignite a civil war? Let's make a movie about it to put something in somebody's mind.
Exactly. And they're trying to like test.
That's how they play. That's how these people do things, man.
They're trying to like desensitize people,
exactly,
so that they can launch the civil war quickly.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
I think that you probably have seen the situation before. Did you see that PBD podcast that I sent you about Judge Joe Brown? No. I really understood what you're talking about. The type of people that you have to unfortunately help and deal with because those things shouldn't exist. So Judge Joe Brown starts off his segment with PBD talking about he's in a courtroom. He remembers being in a courtroom. He remembers being in a courtroom, and there was a mother that was like 56 years old.
Right.
Okay, and she has a daughter that's 42 years old. In the same courtroom.
Okay.
And the grandchild is there. I mean, her daughter is there, who's like 35 years old or 36 something, some weird number. And then another who's like 20 something, and then a girl who's 11 years old who has a baby.
Wow.
They're all in the same courtroom.
That's insane.
Yeah, and oh, thank you, man. But it's all, he said, like, he's seen situations like this, like social decay and this empowerment of single motherhood, and how people are encouraged to have babies but not have men, and that's a money-making machine for them, and it's a cycle of making money. As long as you don't have a man, you're going to make more money. So have a baby with him, but just keep it that way. Don't have the man in the life. He can be a baby dad. Can't be a husband, right? And it may be better for you never to actually know who this person is. And this becomes a money-making machine for empowering women. You know, Judge Joe Brown was talking about this. And I was like, dude, that's just one element of social decay. Well, so prevalent.
Remember when I was talking about on a couple episodes ago, maybe last episode, one of the tools for colonial powers to use on in subjugating a group of people, is that they keep the people dumb but fat. Meaning they had no reason to rebel, because when your biological needs aren't being met, you don't have a reason to fight. So what they figured out is that even within your people, this is not just the United States. This is all across the world. The intelligent people within a country are figuring out ways to keep people dumb, keep them uneducated, make sure that they're fed though. Okay, even if it's like, unhealthy junk food, make it so that they have enough food in their stomach that they don't see a reason why they need to fight for their rights. Okay, so when you have countries like Pakistan and other countries that are very much technologically advanced, but you go to that country and they have really poor infrastructure for the internet. That's a tactical reason why they have it that way. One of the most prominent initial ways I learned about this was when I was visiting India once, and I had brought a couple old laptops because I wanted to give that away to people who I thought might benefit from it. And I gave it to one of my relatives' servants, and I'm like, hey, it seems like you're interested in computers. You seem like you want to get out of this situation. Imagine
your cousin be like, hey man, why are you trying to educate him? I need him here.
Exactly, that's what happened.
Oh, is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened. Like, so I told him, like, hey, I gave your servant a computer. I think one of his kids is really into computers and wants to learn, and he was really upset by it. He's like, why did you do that? Like they want to keep, like, I'm like, wow, like, I thought you were a good person. But then I realized, I see the side of them that, they want to keep people dumb. And this is just one individual. You think that, that's just one. This is extrapolated throughout society, where the smart people keep the people who are not as educated dumb, but they make sure that they have, a servant's quarter, food to eat, roof over their head, but keep them dumb. Yeah. Don't educate them.
And it happens all throughout society.
Throughout
the bottom, all the way up to national,
all the way to the government level.
Yep.
And when you're in this bubble of America and the West, you don't see it. But when you go to the poor countries, you see how the intelligent keep the poor dumb. You're like, oh wow, damn. This is how they control resources. This is how they always have a thumb over them.
You talked about the girls. When they built the projects, for instance, in Chicago, and they built up this welfare system, and they gave these apartments to people, African Americans. Do you know one of the conditions is that the father could not live in the house?
Shut up. The father cannot live in the house.
The father cannot be in the house.
What's their reason?
The destruction of you want this?
No.
Here, simple. You want this? You want this check? You want this apartment? These are the conditions.
Wow.
And this was the destruction of the family, man.
Yeah.
This was the destruction. How do you tell
fatherless homes?
Yeah, exactly. And he's got nowhere to go. Where's he going? In this society, man.
When you destroy the core unit of society, of any group of people, you start with the family.
Yes.
You break the family unit.
Especially the father.
Yeah.
Especially the father. They took what used to be the backbone and turned it into a jelly bone.
Right.
If there's such a thing, they turned it into jelly. And when look, the heterosexual male in this country. What organization is there in this country that's heterosexual? You have the feminist movement. You have the LBG, whatever, Q2, I don't even know all those alphabets. I have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But look at that. Look how strong they are. And every other kind of group. But is there any kind of organization that's for the heterosexual male? No.
That's why the red pill had to emerge, because it's like it's counterbalancing. Mm-hmm. The reaction was going to be inevitable. It was going to happen.
Yeah,
they got Planned Parenthood for that. Stop the family unit from growing for heterosexuals.
Dude, subhanAllah, that reminds me.
Yeah.
When the colonizers came, the old school, British, French colonizers. In the Muslim world, a lot of men used to have weapons on them, and it was part of your
Yes, sir.
attire.
Masculinity, yeah.
It was part of your masculinity, and nobody really
Manhood,
fought
yeah.
unless things got really heated. You'd pull out a dagger or the jambiya or the khinjal, whatever it is, right? But it was part of
Kind
your
of like
attire.
wearing your belt on your pants.
Exactly,
And
and it was
part of the attire.
It was part of the attire. It was your status as a man. As it was a representation that you will defend your community. One of the first things that the colonizers did, they outlawed all weapons
Exactly.
to emasculate the men and to remove this sense of self-defense, this sense of ghaira, this sense of I will defend my community.
Yeah.
And it was very common for everyone to have a hunting rifle.
Yes.
Not necessarily for, fighting with anyone else, but to go and hunt and also to defend your family. All of those were removed. And now if you look at these countries, almost every country has laws against weapons.
Yep.
You can't have any weapons, period. If you have anything bigger than a kitchen knife, they will take you in. And I think that has led to a lot of more violence
Of course
in
it
the
has.
community, in the world as a large.
Even the Islamic understanding.
A lot of oppression.
Yes.
Yeah.
But look at you don't have to go too far. What did the Nazis do before they did what they did?
Yeah.
They
yeah.
confiscated all the weapons.
Yep.
There was a brother, I keep forgetting, he's on my TikTok. I get him sometimes. He was talking the other day, and he was talking about weapons in society. And he said this. He said, the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution should be mandatory for the whole world. Meaning to be able to right to bear arms.
Sheikh Amr, in the past, the history a bit more. Was there any Khalifa or king or sultan that ever decreed weapons should be taken away from the public at large?
No, it was around certain communities. But I'll tell you, when you were talking about India, and even India in specific. Let me talk about India specific. I lived in India I think you visited India a few times too, right? But
I can neither confirm nor deny that statement.
if you go to India, though, there's something very interesting in the Muslim world, a reputation that India has. And the colonizing roots are so powerful in India as far as weapon removals and not having any weapons and carrying weapons, but other Arab countries too. Like, why was this able to happen in Palestine? Why did they have to make fake weapons or make weapons from other materials and make their own factories? Because they're not allowed to have weapons. A lot of Muslim countries are not allowed to have weapons. Some politicians, maybe Egypt, you're not allowed to have weapons. All that kind of stuff. What ended up happening in the Muslim world is, once you take that away, you said emasculate. That's exactly that's exactly what it does when you take weapons away from a man. When the entirety of human society, when weapons were developed, it was weird to see a man without weapons in public. It was just not like, what the heck's wrong here? So what happened is there was a true emasculation that occurred, but the emasculation was just not on a biological level. How does it affect the deen now? That's when the British worked on this concept of jihad, went to the point, even now, the massacres that the BJP and the RSS and everyone's doing, that they were responsible for with Muslims, and it still happens. On the Indian side, if you mention the word jihad to them, even though they're going through persecutions, look, don't say that word. The word is too scary for them, or it's thought of like, well, I'm not a savage. Do I look jungly to you? Like that kind of thing. That's not what jihad. That's changing now a little bit because of their close proximity with Pakistan. Since Pakistan, there's a lot of factions. They talk about the word jihad. A lot of Indians, because of their disdain and nationalism against Pakistanis, they think that's just a Pakistani thing. You know what I'm saying? But not only were the weapons taken away, but also the whole concept of jihad, the pure understanding of jihad, of fighting. And if you die protecting your land, you're going to be shaheed, and it's honorable to protect those people that are around you, and even your neighbors, whether they're Muslim or not. You still die shaheed protecting other human life for the sake of goodness, right? That whole idea was completely taken away just by the weapons, and that's what the British were looking at. We can't let them wake back up. We can't even have them have that idea of jihad anymore. So you go into the Muslim world. That's why what happens. Yeah, it's cool. You can talk about jihad and nafs, but what happens when somebody talks about jihad? No, that's not what jihad means. It means jihad of yourself. No. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Even on Piers Morgan, that poor guy that came on, the Palestinian brother, Allah reward him and his family and his ranks and increase him in ranks. But even when he was trying to talk about jihad, he was like, no, me going to work is jihad. We understand what he's trying to say, that it's a struggle. But that's what's happened in the Muslim world, even in war zones. If you were to ask anybody solely, like if you ask my children, somebody who's innocent, you ask your children, you explain to them what jihad is, you tell them, what jihad does Gaza need? Does it need jihad of the nafs? Yeah, of course it does to some degree. But what jihad do they actually need? Right? They need basically an interception, a handoff of people that are well-trained army that love Allah and His Rasul and love His Muslims, that are going to make sure that they can help defend their brothers and make sure this never happens again. And if anybody dares looks at a Muslim country or something wrong, like, hey, you got mujahideen over there, bro. That entity there, there's mujahideen there. You can't mess with these people. That has to be there. Every government has an army for that reason. Why is this whole nuclear? No one really wants to use nuclear weapons, but what bragging rights does nuclear weapons have? That no one's going to mess with this country, right? In Islam, that's the same thing. We don't need nuclear weapons. We need mujahideen, bro. We need people that are going to be like, hey, no one's going to mess with us because we have a battalion and we have squadrons of people that are known as mujahideen, and they're going to step in if anything happens. And don't associate this with like ISIS. That's not what I'm talking about, right? People refer to them as mujahideen. That's not what I'm referring to, right? But the taking away of weapons was very deliberate, of taking away the idea of jihad from the Muslims.
No, not just that. I think, at least in the Indian subcontinent, the British specifically said we need to emasculate the men.
Yes, sir.
No one is allowed to have anything more than a kitchen knife.
Yeah, you're right.
And one thing that really upsets me is everyone talks about Gandhi. Gandhi didn't do jack. There was many people who resisted the British Empire, who were Muslim, who were Hindu, who were Sikh, who were Punjabi, who were Jain, but none of them get covered in history books. It's all focused on Gandhi because they want to promote this narrative that it was just peaceful. Everything was peaceful. They voted the British out. Same thing in the Arab lands.
Yeah.
Same thing in America with like Malcolm X. No one talks about Malcolm X. Everything is about Martin Luther King Jr. But no, there was huge movements.
Or Fred Hampton.
Or Fred Hampton, right? The Black Panther Party.
Yeah. What did the British also do in India to try to erase this jihad ideology? They created something there.
Sorry, say that again?
They created something there.
They created something within the Muslim community who were supposedly Muslims, and they basically, that group...
Oh, the Qadiani?
There you go.
Yeah.
The Ahmadiyya. The Ahmadiyya came into play. What did Ahmadiyya... The British were losing their mind from the most resistance they had to their occupation was the Muslims. And they could not deal with this idea with these Muslims. What caused these Muslims to behave like this and resist this jihad ideology? So they said, create this, but eliminate jihad in it. The Ahmadiyya sect doesn't have.
It goes further than that.
It goes further, yeah. But I'm just being.
You have to be loyal to the crown.
Exactly.
It's part of their faith.
And look at the timing, bro. This time, the whole Palestine and Muslims talking about jihad now. This Qasim Rashid guy comes in now on the scene.
Yeah.
Who's Ahmadi, who's running for Congress.
Yeah.
In Naperville here. And he's causing up uproar. Like if you talk to him, he acts like he's Muslim. Yeah. And he's talking to Muslims like, hey, we're on the same team.
The guy that taught me my religion, he educated me about Shia, Ahmadiyya, and Sufis in general. And I'm glad that I learned this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the least out of all of them was the Sufis, but the idea of and that's what really destroyed the Khilafah, the last Khilafah, is that we gave up industry, we gave up everything in Turkey, and people were just spinning around dancing, as they do in Turkey.
The whirling
forgot
dervishes.
about everything, and they started depending on Europe, and it went down like a plane,
like a house
crash
cards.
landing. Yeah, so that's the stuff. But on the Ahmadiyya thing, I read quite a bit about it, and actually, that nation here, the Nation of Islam, was started by one of them. That Fard Muhammad is actually one of them from the Ahmadiyya.
Oh, he's actually Ahmadiyya.
Ahmadiyya, exactly. So they started this Ahmadiyya thing with eliminating this concept of jihad out of it.
But sorry to cut you off. Do the Ahmadis and the Nation of Islam work together still or no?
Not really on the surface. They may behind closed doors, but not that I know of. I don't get too much involved in them because when I was in prison, I had battles with them guys. It was a thing. I was dealing with white people after I learned the religion and Hispanics and trying to teach them Islam, and they were the biggest obstacle. Of course, they're like, "Oh man, but what's up with those Muslim guys, man? They don't like us. They're always talking bad about this." And it was a struggle, just kind of trying to explain what Islam is, and that's not Islam.
Is the nation strong in jail? Sorry to sidetrack a little bit.
Not really strong. Not really strong. They're not really strong. But as African Americans killing together, even like African American Sunni Muslims tend to have sympathy for them because they're black, and I understand that. Being on a nationalistic tip, I understand that. I wouldn't. I had problems with them, and I constantly told them they weren't Muslims, and it was a back and forth type thing. And one of them called me one day, "Oh, you colonized person, you got to tell us, And I'm, what? But, as soon as, look, bro, you are what you are. I'm not saying you don't have a right to be that, but that's not Islam, bro. That's not Islam, bro. Prophet Muhammad, when you have someone sitting next to you and they're talking about, the Quran doesn't talk about Prophet Muhammad of Arabia. That was a white man. It's talking about Elijah Muhammad. Things like that kind of get under your skin. But in a setting like that, man, when you're talking about, you're trying to explain Islam to this white guy, and he's pointing to them. It's kind of difficult, man.
Yeah.
It really undercuts your effort.
Yeah, exactly, man. And then even if he wanted to, he kind of shies away because then his people say, man, you with them people that don't like us whites. They call us hunkies and crackers and devils and all this
blue-eyed devils.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, let's be frank, man. The European community has not been that innocent in history. Let's just be frank. I'm not blaming all Europeans. I'm just saying, who was it that caused slavery in this country and who was it that subjugated and caused the genocide against the Native Americans? Who was it that started World War I and World War II and who was Mussolini? Who was Hitler? Who was, we could keep going on. Who was Menachem Begin? Who is Netanyahu? We could keep going. These are all Europeans. I mean, Netanyahu, that's not his real name. His real name is Melakowski.
He was born in Poland, right?
His dad was born in Poland. I don't know if he was born in Poland, but his dad was born in Poland. His dad's Polish, so he's Polish. Shimon Peres, that's not his real name. Golda Meir, that's not her real name. All of them, that's not their real names. They changed their real names. So, and they're all Europeans. So, I mean, when someone says something, it's hard to defend against that. Although, as Muslims, we know we have the Bosnian Muslims. They suffered. We have the Kosovo Muslims. They suffered. We have the Albanian Muslims. They suffer. So, the Chechens. Even Europeans themselves suffered at the hands of other Europeans. How many people did Stalin and Lenin kill? 20 million.
Right, yeah.
20 million people. So they've even caused genocide against the Crusades. What, the Crusades came down and only killed Muslims?
Mm-mm.
The Crusades, as they were going down, it was like a tidal wave. It wiped out everything in its path.
Yeah, the Fourth Crusade, they fought the Byzantines.
Yes.
That pretty much led to the breakup of the Byzantine Empire.
Exactly. They've demolished Christians themselves. Who killed the Unitarian Christians of the world who initially believed in the unity of one God? The Trinitarians, they were Europeans, and they killed them. They were in North Africa and the Middle East. They believed in the unity of God. They didn't believe in the Trinity. There was no Trinity at the time. So the Unitarian Christians back then believed in one God. They didn't believe in the Trinity. And it was the European Christians who believed in the Trinity after the Council of Nicaea of 325 were the ones who caused it, who murdered them. Excuse me.
Oh, you good?
Yeah. The Houthis have done a significant amount of damage to the world in terms of the amount of insurance that these ships have to use now.
So funny,
right?
Insurance rates.
Insurance rate. That's huge.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because imagine insuring cargo
I know.
The
it's
cargo
crazy.
is the, it's the lifeblood of Israel. Israel's pretty much dependent on all these shipping lanes to be open in order for them to keep receiving goods. Now, one of the interesting ways of understanding how the war has changed is the cost of the United States in how much they're spending to destroy these Houthi drones is mind-boggling. It's like 1.2 million per missile that they shoot at these drones, and these drones are around $2,000 to $5,000 conservative estimates. They could be cheaper to in creating these drones that are made by Iran. Now, imagine how much you're going to bleed your enemy dry. This is one of the fundamental things about understanding about how you have to be patient in Islam, in why Muslims are told that you have to continue fighting and resisting, no matter the cost. And here's a clip from a Jewish intellectual or professor at a university talking about.
Before you play the clip, do you think we could do a quick pause? I just realized 4:13 Maghrib's in like 10 minutes. I haven't prayed Asr yet.
Okay.
Did you guys already do Asr?
Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take a break.
Can we take a quick break? Sorry about that, guys.
We have a prayer Salah break window here. Here we go.
Nice.
We are praying the Salah and will momentarily return.
Man, Sam, holding it down, brother. Holding it.
All right, we're back, fellas.
Tell me.
Thank you for hanging in there.
My card, my lawyer is going to contact you. I love you.
Sheikh, we're live right now, Sheikh.
All right, bismillah.
Language, please.
Oh, language? All I was talking about was attorneys, bro. I was saying if the feds visit anybody, just let them know that, hey, I want to cooperate, but give me your card, my attorney's going to contact you. That's all you got to do, and they'll leave you alone.
Nice.
Unless it gets too late, then just break your door down.
We're back from Salah. I took my regular position as a standing vice Amir of the Salah, right? Vice Imam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just in case the Sheikh falls in Salah.
Why does he need to
or he makes a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you could nudge me.
Or correct you with my sword.
Yeah. Or he farts.
As they used to do back then.
We mirror him.
If you fart, then the vice imam can step in.
Yeah.
Can. Well, Vice Imam did not have to step in. Sheikh took care of business.
Mm-hmm.
MashaAllah, he's a very reputable.
Taking care of businesser.
Yeah.
Very reputable, taking care of businesser. But while I think we're moving towards wrapping up, I know I ask this all the time, and everybody does, but it's always good to know, since so much has been changing, what do you think's next, and what direction do you think we're moving in?
This is, I think, what the video I was about to play kind of segues into that.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. One second here.
I don't know if you're joking or serious.
No, serious.
Okay. I used to live with you, bro. I know what that's like.
Unfortunately. You know what's sad? Now the
זאת אומרת, יש חמאסניקים שחושבת כמו ישראלית. זה בסדר, אנחנו משווים חיי אדם. שמה זה לא...
Let me set this up.
Oh,
this is Mordecai, Professor Mordecai. And so he's basically telling people in their language that, hey, you're thinking like an Israeli, and that's a good thing. He's not saying that you're bad, but he's trying to get inside the head of Hamas and how this is all going to play out.
את חושבת כמו ישראלית. זה בסדר, אנחנו משווים חיי אדם. שמה זה לא הסיפור. אני רוצה להגיד לך, כבר אמרתי את זה יותר מפעם, אם יישאר חמאסניק אחד, קטוע רגל וקטוע יד, וביד השנייה נותרו לו שתי אצבעות, הוא יעמוד על גג של מסגד הרוס ויעשה וי והוא ניצח. למה? כי הילדים שלו ימשיכו, והנכדים שלו ימשיכו. כי הוא נשאר, הוא שרד. ולכן זה תמימות הניצחון. צריך להבין פה, זה ראש אחר. זה קריטריונים אחרים לניצחון
אבל הנה אנחנו רואים, אבל כן חמאסניקים נכנעים. זאת אומרת, יש חמאסניקים
שלו ימשיכו.
Sorry? That guy's vicious.
Oh, this guy?
He threatened the whole world.
Really?
He threatened the United States. He threatened everybody. Iran. He said, we're coming for all of you.
Huh. So
By the way, do you understand what they're saying? Like, if you didn't have translation?
I have his. I have where he did it on my.
No, I'm saying
TikTok.
when you hear Hebrew, their
no.
contemporary Hebrew, do you
I don't
understand?
no,
that?
he came when he was young.
No, I'm just saying.
But most Palestinians at my age, if I had been exposed, like young Palestinians were.
yeah, they also understand it fluently and speak fluently.
but no, I didn't because I wasn't around them much.
So he's basically telling him, the mindset. I've said more than once that Hamas, that if only one of the Hamas,
קטוע רגל וקטוע יד, ובין השנייה נותרו לו שתי אצבעות. הוא יעמוד על גג של מסגד הרוס ויעשה וי והוא ניצח. למה? כי הילדים שלו ימשיכו, והנכדים שלו ימשיכו. כי הוא נשאר, הוא שרד. ולכן זה תמימות הניצחון. צריך להבין פה, זה ראש אחר, זה קריטריון.
we must understand that this is a different type of thinking.
אחרים לניצחון.
אבל הנה, הנה אנחנו רואים, אבל כן חמאסניקים.
So he's saying, but the person he's talking to is saying, but we see Hamas members surrendering. By the way, I have to explain this for the podcast. People don't see the video.
Yeah, and that was actually a lie. Those were not Hamas.
Right.
Those were civilians.
נכנעים. זאת אומרת, יש חמאסניקים
כמה לא נכנעו? וכמה נמצאים עוד במנהרות מחכים לצאת החוצה עם כלי נשק ומתארים בשביל לפוצץ אותך?
There's still thousands of them out there.
זאת אומרת, הסיפור הזה זה לא מה שרואים היום. פה הם רואים הרבה קדימה.
אבל גם אנחנו רואים הרבה קדימה, סליחה. למה אנחנו מדברים על עם הנצח ועל הדרך הארוכה ועל הילדים שלנו שעוד ימשיכו להילחם?
האמריקאים ייתנו לך גב לתמיד?
Will the Americans support you forever?
האירופאים ייתנו לך גב לתמיד?
Europe support you?
החברה הישראלית תיתן לך גב לתמיד?
Still support you?
אלה השאלות החשובות.
These are important questions.
תראי, יש פסוק בקוראן שאומר, אין אללה מע הסאבירין. אללה הוא עם בעלי היכולת לסבול לאורך זמן. תבין,
So he's quoting the Quranic words, Allah is with the patient, and he's saying, you have to understand what they mean by patience. It's not what you think is patience.
אין לנו מילה כזאת
We don't have a word like this.
בעברית, כי אין לנו מושג כזה בעברית. סבר זה אדם שיכול להיות במנהרה חודשיים ושלושה.
Patience is for Hamas members for 2 to 3 months in a tunnel where you don't see any daylight.
לא רואה אור יום, בקושי אוכל, בקושי רואה כלום, יצא עם הקלאץ' ויהרוג יהודים. למה? כי יש לו את היכולת לסבול לאורך זמן. וזה לא ברור.
This is unclear to me.
מהחברה הישראלית.
אז אתה אומר שבעצם הפנטזיה הישראלית שאולי נגיע איזה נקודת שבירה של החמאס, שבה החמאס פשוט באמת או ייכנע או יקרוס לתוך עצמו, זו פנטזיה ישראלית שאין בינה לבין המציאות קשר.
אתם חיים בתוך הבועה הישראלית.
So he's saying, the person he's talking to is saying, wait, are you saying that this collapse of Hamas is a fantasy? And then he responds saying, you're living inside an Israeli bubble.
הם חיים למען
They
אללה.
live for Allah.
אללה איתם.
Allah is with
הם
them.
לוחמי ג'יהאד. אנחנו
jihad
לוחמי
fighters.
חירות ישראל.
We are freedom
בסדר.
fighters.
אנחנו לא לוחמים מחיי קודש.
We are not fighting a holy war.
יום אחד היה לי ויכוח עם ציפי לבני. הייתי באיזשהו פאנל. ואמרתי לה, פה המרכיב הדתי הוא דומיננטי אצלם. אצלם אללה הוא השחקן העיקרי במשחק.
For them, Allah is the main player, if not the only player.
הוא לא השחקן היחיד. אצלנו הקדוש ברוך הוא,
For us, if God is even present on the field,
אם הוא בכלל במגרש, הוא שחקן ספסל.
he's a substitute player.
וזה הבדל אדיר מבחינת היכולת הנפשית והיכולת
That's a huge difference in terms of psychological capacity.
הציבורית והיכולת הגופנית גם, כי יש בזה השלכות פיזיולוגיות על האמונה. והיכולת שלהם בעניין הזה היא אדירה. אני לא אומר ששלנו היא פחות חשובה.
I'm not saying our moral capacity is less important.
המורל חשוב והכל, אבל להם
But
הם לוחמים מלחמת דת. ואצלנו, לפחות חלקנו,
At least half
לא
of us
רוצים לראות את
don't want
הדבר
to see
הזה.
this. So it's important for us to understand that this is not a.
Can you send me that?
Yeah, I'll send you that. Yeah, this is the Israelis' own perception of what the Palestinian psyche is. They say Hamas, but that's code word for Palestinians, Muslims in general. Like they want to understand, like, wait, what keeps them going? Because they've starved them, they've bombed them, 20,000 killed. They've done everything humanly possible. They've blockaded them. They're doing everything to make their life miserable. This is the undertone. This is what you're hearing is someone trying to understand their psychology. But what's happening in the background is them trying to rationalize that we've done everything to them to make them want to leave, but they're not leaving. So he's explaining to them that they have this idea called Inna Allahi ma sabirin. Their conception of sabr is not even in Hebrew. They have an entirely different worldview that we can't even imagine. On the battlefield, God is a substitute player. For them, Allah is their main player on the battlefield.
SubhanAllah.
This is what you have. He's congratulating you, even though he's a Zionist, but he doesn't know that he's actually giving you what you want to hear, what you need to know. That they're not patient. They want the win now. They're making a fool of themselves around the world. The whole world is seeing their evil, their destruction. They can't even play the patient game. The game of being patient and what telling, like, if they wanted to listen to what the United States and their allies, their legitimate allies, want them to do, they're not listening to them. They're like, we want Gaza now, because they're not patient.
It is so beautiful coming from somebody who's as a voice that's looking out for them and telling them how to, but in a way, it's like, it's so amazing how Allah's work happens. Like, if a Muslim, I just want you to think, if a Muslim had to say that, as a Muslim, saying the same words he had, it'd be like, whatever. But this is a respected guy that they brought on.
Yeah.
And he's doing this work, and we had no idea that the effect would be this way because Allah wants it to happen this way, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't realize, like, I know I said this before, but when I used to teach at school, we had this lesson once. This was when the whole ISIS thing was happening. And there was a skit on Saturday Night Live with Chris Rock and a few other people, and they were pitching to the Shark Tank a group called ISIS, right? And it was really interesting because they were like clarifying and like kind of talking about some wickedness, like underhand comments, wickedness of United States and its support for ISIS or whatever. But they had like La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah on their head, on their chest. They had a poster board, and they had. And for me, it was so interesting, and I want to show this to school because one of the lessons we were talking about is Rasulullah saying in a hadith that there's going to come a time where La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is going to enter every household, right? And La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah will enter every household, whether it's through comedy and people see it and it brands something in their brain, or they hear it through people representing, whether it's through positive or but it's still going to enter their homes.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens now here, where this dude, he's actually, whether he realizes or not, he's empowering Muslims. He's bringing jihad back into the medium now. When he talked about jihad, he talked about Inna Allaha ma'a sabirin, he made Muslims. I'm pretty sure Muslims didn't think about what he was talking about as sabr, or what Islam actually says about sabr, or an element of it. And the other thing that Hebrew, they don't have that same word for sabr, the same translation, or the same understanding that we do. But bringing examples of how they stay under tunnels for 3 months, for them that's sabr because they're doing it for Allah, right? So it's like he's sent, in a sense, to be in their color, but in actuality he's empowering the Muslims and not only teaching the Muslims, but like, dude, I didn't think about that. But if it was a Muslim doing that, because he's one of our own, we wouldn't probably give it the same type of attention, right? So all these dynamics are being played and put in because Allah wants change to happen. And when Allah wants change to happen, he creates his means.
And to prove that, how undignified they are to be custodians of the Holy Land.
Yes, sir.
The Christians have already proved themselves during the Crusades, before Saladin came and liberated them. They proved themselves as incapable of being custodians of the Holy Land. Now, the Jews never had that ability. And they've proven to the world that they cannot be custodians. I
didn't even think about that.
They're
Very good point.
That's a great point, bro.
Apartheid, even in the West Bank or just in Israel itself, it's an apartheid state. So how could you claim that you are benevolent and merciful and will judge between different religions accordingly. You're not. And the only ones who have done that are the Muslims.
So one more group left, brothers.
No, I think that's it.
No, meaning who's next?
I think
these people are ending.
Yeah.
And I think
they
Muslims
are
next.
ending.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's I
And,
think they've
So
gone rogue.
If you look at it in the grand scheme of things, what Sim said is like he hit the nail on the head, because on the day of judgment, Allah's going to gather up all of humanity, and then He's going to ask each one of them, right? And Allah's just, so He gives you money in this world, and then He, rewards you or punishes you how you use that money. He gives you power in this world, and He's just. Allah is very just. He gives everyone a fair shot. So He gave the Christians, He gave the Muslims, and now He gave, the Jews a chance to run the Holy Land, exactly like how Sim said. And then everyone is going to be rewarded and punished according to how they handled it. And I think now all the major groups are done. I mean, it's a very...
now we talking.
Yeah, I like to look at... I really like to look at global power shifts and how globally power is shifting between the different groups, and understanding how Allah gives each group power and tests them. And then it goes through group after group.
Yeah, and gives them different capabilities. Look, one of the capabilities that Allah gave Bani Israel is actually a power of deception, right? They were given that. Whether
that's the Mossad's slogan, by the way.
Yeah, by way of deception, of course. That's why that book is so crazy, because they're literally speaking in Islamic terminology of what Allah gives certain qawms something, and they boast about it, and they probably should, but they shouldn't be misusing it. But the main thing here is, look, we say that we're not against Jews, that's very true. But let's give it some context to people, because this question was asked to me, and maybe we could finish off along these lines. Is we say that when Allah is talking about in the Quran, when He's talking about in Surah Al-Baqarah and times cursing Bani Israel, who is He actually referring to? Because He's talking about all of Bani Israel, right? Or is He talking about Bani Israel and say, hey, don't fall into this again? And are some of those same traits of Bani Israel remaining to Yawm al-Qiyamah until they become Muslim? So people can see what Allah is referring to, right? What that actually means is, one way of looking at it is, the Zionist entity happens to be from the Jews. It doesn't mean that every single Jew, because we have some Jews that are actually atheists. There's Jews by culture, right? They're cultural Jews. Yeah. But the only Jewish entity, quote unquote, in the world right now is Israel.
Yeah.
And it happens to be, when they're an entity, as a Zionist entity, which happens to be some Jews and some whatever else, it happens to be everything Allah says in the Quran about them is actually true.
Yeah.
When they're in power and when they are unjust. And the manifestation now is shown from them. And dude, I didn't even think about that example like that you just gave, is that these shifts that happen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran mentions that some people, we give them power and then we shift, nudawiluha, and then it's the next one's turn. And then it's the next one to show examples of who they are.
Yeah.
Right? And the only thing that, obviously we've made lots of assumptions and hoping of what is going to happen, but obviously Allah always has something else planned. But the observation nonetheless is amazing, that the Christians had a chance, the Jews had a chance, the Muslims had a chance, and it seems that what's ripe now is, number one, and the next thing is that Muslim rule around the corner, because the whole world idea of Israel has changed. I can't imagine it going back to the way it was before.
No,
but now taxpayers, Cenk Uyghur, all these guys, like, my taxpayer is not going. Do you ever see it? He's identifying as a Muslim now again. Did you see that?
Yeah, well,
he's referring to himself as a Muslim.
He's still an atheist.
He's still an atheist, but he's using that thing as like, because I'm a Muslim, you're saying that?
Yeah.
He never used to say that before. Cenk Uyghur, the guy from the Young Turks, who's running for presidency. Yeah. But anyway, I just found that interesting.
2024.
Yeah, I just saw that. I was like, this is
interesting.
But anyways,
his family's Muslim.
Well, his family's Muslim.
So he identifies.
He's culturally,
culturally.
Yeah, no, I know that.
But the Crusaders failed. The Zionists failed, but when the Muslim ruled, they didn't fail. Mm-hmm. The Muslims failed at the end economically, and the people rebelled and caused treason. In particular, in the land of Hijaz. Okay, but I will tell you this: it's amazing to listen to that guy talk, and he tells the truth of the situation. And he sees that we are victorious and excelling, and yet you don't have Muslims who see what he sees. You don't have Muslims who they look at the carnage and the death. You didn't see. He didn't look at the carnage and the death. He looked at the whole picture, and he understood that the resistance, Hamas, is not losing but winning, and they are patient and they believe in Allah. He has more recognition of our belief and those fighters down there and their belief than Muslims themselves. How many Muslims you see on here talking about they've murdered everybody? I don't know how much I can take of this. Yeah, how much you can take of this? You're not even going through it. You're going through it mentally. The people down there are going through it.
Yeah.
And yet you're weak. You're weak. You can't stand up and say it. You think as a Palestinian, I sit and I watch some of this stuff. You think I let this stuff faze me? As much as it hurts me, I look at the bigger picture of how much good we're doing, how the world has been awakened by these people. These people are not liberating Palestine. These people are liberating the world. These people have liberated the world. These people have awakened the American people, the German people, the French people. These people are awakening the world to show the world that satanic movements are in full control of your governments. And they are backing a movement that is satanic. This Zionist entity is satanic in itself. This is a movement that does not believe in God. This is a movement that says we're Jewish, but we're not Torah people, but it's a nationality. But then they pull all types of religious stuff they have intertwined in their culture, and it's a filthy ideology.
And to build on
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And to build on what Brother Imad just said, look, there's a lot of Muslims that are going to be very disheartened, and they're going to have a crisis of faith. And building on what our Bey Sim said, look, if you're having a crisis of faith and you're like, why is Allah giving these people power? Why is Allah allowing these people to destroy us? Why is Allah allowing these people to, murder innocent babies? Going back to what Sim and Imad said, Allah is just. He's going to give everyone an opportunity. And if he didn't give everyone an opportunity, then on the day of judgment, the people might have an opportunity to complain and say, oh Allah, you never gave me a fair shot. You never gave me a fair test. And so understand that everything that's happening is part of the grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
In the sense of the day of judgment, not in this world. In this world is the test. So like I come from a teaching background. If I don't give every single student, if I have 25 students, I have to give them all the same exact test with the same exact questions. If I give one group of students an easier exam with easier multiple choice questions, and I give everyone else a really hard essay question, it's not fair.
Just.
I'm not being just.
Of course.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings victory from the most weakest among us. Just like how he did with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with the weakest among the Quraysh in the Meccan society. That's how he brings victory. And his religion will never be stood up by the bourgeoisie, the wealthy.
Look at David, peace be upon him.
Yeah.
David was a small guy, skinny, thin guy. Yeah. You could probably slap him and knock him over. He was so small and so frail. This is David alayhi salam, Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, that these people supposedly follow. These Zionists. He was a little thing, and he offered to take on Jalut, and he beat Jalut. Look at Salah ad-Din. Salah ad-Din was a frail guy who was always sick. He had a hard time getting on his horse and liberated Palestine. He wasn't even a radically religious person. Salah ad-Din was an ordinary, may Allah have mercy on his soul, was an ordinary guy. But he had such an effect on the world that when the Caliphate fell, the French general came to Syria and kicked his grave and said, "Wake up, Salah ad-Din, we're back." That's these people. You mean to tell me you're fighting a people who don't know? These are people who are anti-God, anti-Muslim. Why is it that these people are fighting the Muslims? Everything is about Muslims because they've subjugated everything else. If you brought Islam into the West, if you brought Islam into the United States right now, and all the people in the United States became Muslim, What happens to the alcohol industry? What happens to riba? The banks are done. The economic system as we know it is finished. These greedy people will be gone. And if this happened all over the world, this is why their fight is totally against Islam.
When you say that they subjugated everything else, do you mean that everything else fell and the Muslims are the last one standing? Is that what you meant by that?
I mean, they you go to Christianity and it tells you, give on to Caesar what is his and give on to God what is his, meaning separate the two. Don't be against governments. So I'm saying they've corrupted things. They've instilled man-made things into these religions, and the only thing that has not been corrupted is the Quran and Islam. But they don't realize that there's a verse in the Quran where Allah takes an oath, or not an oath, it takes it upon himself that he will preserve this religion. And he has done so. It is a miracle in itself that nothing has been taken out or put into this Quran that mainstream Muslims believe. So they're gonna fail at every turn. It's over with. They're gonna fail at every turn. This fight is between evil and good. That's it. That's it. And you choose which side you're gonna be on. And if you're gonna be weak and disheartened by what's happening to these people, these children and their mothers and their fathers, as Muslims, we believe the children are going to be birds in heaven. And they're not only going to be that, they're going to be keys for the doors to heaven for their mothers and fathers. Okay, so if you don't believe in that and you are weak in faith and you decide that we are looking bad and they are doing this and doing that while thousands of them are being killed fighting Muslims and they're saying we're fighting ghosts, that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done it in the past where he sent down angels to fight with the believers. But Allah could wipe all this all out. But there's a duty for us. And if you as a Muslim, you go pray 5 times a day or you pray whatever times a day and you fast and you do all these things and you are saddened, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that sadness and depression is from Satan. So there you have to check your iman. And you have to disconnect yourself from this material world and the fear of losing things in this world. And I'm not saying go out and hurt people. That's not what we're talking about. But at least be strong enough to know that these people are dying down there, but they are going to a place that we believe is better, is the forever place.
Yes, sir.
And that the other people, did you see when I've said it before, the stench of the bodies of the Israeli soldiers in freezers. Have you ever put meat in freezer where it started to stink? Never. But for them, they're stinking. Where the guy walked in, an Israeli, to show the bags of the dead Israeli soldiers, and it's in a freezer. You could see the smoke in there from being cold, and he couldn't stand the smell of their bodies. Yet in Gaza, they were walking around saying you could smell misk.
Allahu Akbar.
You understand what I'm saying? This is not a time for to be weak in faith. This is not a time for you to question Allah. These people down there fighting, they're not saying what you say. They're not doing what you do. What did they say? They said, we don't need food. We don't need your water. We don't need your sympathy or empathy.
Allah.
That's our show.
Heart pumping, bro. MashaAllah.
Folks, please make sure to hit like. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Thank you all for listening. We had a great turnout. Make sure you help us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/TheManimumLukes. This show is entirely funded by you. We do not get paid through YouTube. We're completely demonetized, and are entirely funded by you, by your support, by your sharing of these episodes, and you telling other people about it. This is how the show grows, because they've completely turned down the algorithm dial for us. No matter how many likes and celebrities we get on, it's just they've just turned on our dial or our reach. So you can do your part by sharing, please, and helping out in whatever way you can.
Please.
That being said, for my co-hosts,
if I may say,
go ahead.
Please share, like. It doesn't take long. And if there's something in your mind saying, I'll do it a little bit later, it's something from Shaitan whispering in your ear. This is an important broadcast, and it should be shared. You should at least take the effort. There are Muslims around the world who are starving and dying, and they're doing everything in their power to fight. So I ask you to please share and put the word out there. We need people to hear. It's not for just you to hear. Sometimes I share things on social media and it sits there and I'm like, bro, I sent it to you so you could share it. I didn't send it to you for you to just look at it. Share it and like it, bro. Let's move it. And that's how it grows. Thank you. Salam alaikum. We love you all too.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, and don't forget to miss out. Try to go to which for American listeners, the DC rally, January 10th, is it?
13th.
13th? Yeah. So a lot of Muslims are going from all across the country. Try to get there.
Muslims and non-Muslims.
Yeah, is that the one that you're trying to get 11 million to? Is that the one?
Yeah, I'm just saying Muslims because the banner, the ad I got was from all these Muslim
organizations. No, that's the one that they're aiming for 11 million. Is that the one?
Inshallah.
11 million person march?
Yes.
Yeah. So I head out there. We're going to try getting out there too.
That'd be dope.
You want to get there? Sure.
I mean, I get a chance to get out of the house.
All right. We'll update you guys later.
Inshallah.
We'll talk to you later. Inshallah. Assalamu
alaikum. Thanks for coming on, Shaz. This is beautiful, man.
No worries, man. Thank you guys for having me. It's a great opportunity to do something good.